Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour. Putin meets Iran's foreign minister as IAEA demands access to nuclear sites. Israel strikes Evin prison. Speculations on Hormuz closure. NATO chief Rutte says US strikes on Iran do not violate international law. Operation Sindhu mass evacuation underway. Over 1,700 Indians brought home from Iran, more arriving from Israel. 40 years on, the sky still weeps as the world remembers the 329 lives lost in the Kanishka plane terror bombing. Russian President Vladimir Putin hosted Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi in Moscow on Monday. In Vienna, the International Atomic Energy Agency, or the IAEA, held an emergency meeting of the agency's 35-member or 35-nation Board of Governors. So the IAEA chief, he said that he expects very significant damage at Iran's Fordo site. In Iran, Israel targeted Evin prison, which is in Tehran, in what Israel has called the most intense bombing yet of the Iranian capital. Fuzail Ahmed has the report.
Monday turned out to be a day of hectic parleys after the US struck Iranian nuclear sites a day earlier. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi met Russia's President Vladimir Putin in Moscow, who said that Moscow is trying to help the Iranian people.
Absolutely unprovoked aggression against Iran has no basis or justification. We have long-standing, good and reliable relations with Iran. On our part, we are making efforts to assist the Iranian people.
On his part, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi thanked Vladimir Putin for condemning US strikes on Iran. International Atomic Energy Agency, or the IAEA, too, held a meeting of its Board of Governors at its headquarters in Vienna. While the agency said that there could be significant damage to the Iranian sites, UN nuclear watchdog had sought permission to send its inspectors to Iran's nuclear sites to gauge conditions of its uranium stockpiles.
To achieve the long-term assurance that Iran does not acquire a nuclear weapon, and for the continued effectiveness of the global non-proliferation regime, we must return to negotiations.
But Iranian representative alleged that IAEA is no longer functioning effectively.
The present situation has reaffirmed the troubling reality that the IAEA and broader non-proliferation regime established under the NPT is no longer considered functioning effectively by some in upholding its foundational objective and legal responsibilities.
Earlier, Speaker of Iran's parliament stated that Tehran is seeking to suspend cooperation with the IAEA. On the other hand, in the Netherlands, NATO chief Mark Rutte said that US strikes on Iran over the weekend did not violate international law.
My biggest fear would be for Iran to own and be able to use and deploy a nuclear weapon. It would be a stranglehold on Israel, on the whole region and other parts of the world. And that is why NATO has said Iran should not, and this is a consistent position of NATO, Iran should not have its hands on a nuclear weapon. So, and I would not agree that this is against international law what the US did.
Meanwhile, countries continue to push for de-escalation. President of the European Union Parliament, Roberta Metsola, who was in Abu Dhabi, hoped that there is a path for peace.
What the regime in Iran does next will determine its future. There is a path to peace. Now is the moment for it to be grabbed and not for the situation to escalate. The same is true for the security threats on our maritime channels.
On the ground, Israeli military continued strikes in Iran on Monday, striking multiple sites in Tehran.
At this time, we continue to damage and deny the Iranian regime's ability to launch and produce missiles. At this moment, the Air Force planes are deepening the strikes in the Tehran area with an emphasis on commanding headquarters of the Revolutionary Guards.
Israeli Defense Minister Israeli Katz posted on X saying that Israel struck with unprecedented force Iranian regime targets in Tehran, including the Evin prison for political prisoners, among other targets. With Fuzail Ahmed, Tanvi Taneja for DD India.
The US President Donald Trump has urged Iran to end the conflict after he launched surprise strikes on a nuclear infrastructure there. So what's happened is that the president has said that they had a spectacular military success on Sunday, taking the bomb right out of Iran's hands. Now, Trump in a social media post has said, and I'm quoting him now, monumental damage was done to all nuclear sites in Iran, as shown by satellite images. Obliteration is an accurate term. The white structure shown is deeply embedded into the rock, with even its roof well below ground level and completely shielded from flame. The biggest damage took place far below ground level, bullseye. Further, Trump hinted at the possibility of regime change in Iran. In a social media post, Trump said, and I quote, "It's not politically correct to use the term regime change, but if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be a regime change? MEGA." The Israeli spokesperson at the National Public Diplomacy Directorate, David Menser, said that the regime change in Iran is not one of the objectives Israel is hoping to achieve, but that it may be a byproduct of the Israeli ongoing operation in Iran.
Made very clear when it comes to Iran, our objective is not regime change, but that may be the byproduct. But this war will end when our objectives, those two main key objectives, are met. That ballistic missile program that reaches us here in Israel, but has the capacity to reach much further afield, much further afield, and also that nuclear weapons program. There is no scenario where Iran can have a nuclear weapon.
While in an interesting development, the exiled crown prince and the eldest son of Iran's Shah, Reza Pahalvi, has called for regime change as the ultimate solution. He has offered to lead the transition.
Regime is ultimately what people fear the most. They want to make sure that at the tail end of all this regime actually collapses, which is what I mean by saying don't throw it another lifetime. This regime is on its way down. People know it. And the biggest fear is, what if this regime was to survive? That's why I keep saying this regime must go. The only solution for Iran's liberation and for peace is for this regime to be no longer there. This is an opportunity in front of us. So we are doing what we can as Iranians fighting this brutal regime. It is time for the international community to finally decide whether this time they're going to be with the people and help them overthrow this regime.
The Strait of Hormuz is a strategic waterway for seaborne oil that has long been used by Iran as a geopolitical bargaining chip, with Tehran repeatedly threatening to close it during times of crisis. Iran again threatened its closure after Israel launched a massive air campaign earlier this month targeting nuclear and military sites, with the United States also striking key nuclear facilities on Sunday. Now, Iranian lawmakers have floated the idea following the U.S. attacks, though the decision remains with the National Security Council, which is Iran's highest security body. Dheeraj Das has the report.
With tensions between Iran and Israel escalating, especially after the US bombed the nuclear facilities in Iran on Sunday, there are rising fears of the Strait of Hormuz being closed. The strait is a crucial maritime passage handling 20% of the global oil and gas transportation. Iran's parliament has approved the closure of Strait of Hormuz, and the final decision will be taken by Iran's Supreme National Security Council. If Iran goes ahead and shuts down the Strait of Hormuz, it would disrupt trade flows, send oil prices shooting up, and potentially destabilizing the global economy. The 33-kilometer broad strait, though falls under the territorial waters of Iran, is used by many oil-producing countries of the Gulf as it links the Persian Gulf and Gulf of Oman, leading to the Arabian Sea. OPEC members, including Saudi Arabia, Iran, the UAE, Kuwait, and Iraq, export most of their crude via the strait, mainly to Asia. The UAE and Saudi Arabia have sought to find other routes to bypass the strait. Expressing concern, European Union's top diplomat Kaja Kallas said that the closure of the Strait of Hormuz would be dangerous and not good for anybody.
So ministers are very much focused on the diplomatic solution and also the concerns of retaliation and this war escalating are huge. Especially closing of the Strait of Hormuz by Iran is something that it would be extremely dangerous and not good for anybody.
Earlier, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio called on China to urge Iran not to shut down the strait. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung too voiced similar concerns, saying the situation in West Asia was very, very volatile and financial markets were becoming unstable due to increasing uncertainty. Lee called on his senior aides to prepare additional measures that could be incorporated into an extra budget already proposed if needed. India's Petroleum Minister Hardeep Singh Puri has said that New Delhi is closely monitoring the evolving geopolitical situation and has no reasons to worry.
We had diversified the sources of supply, and out of the 5.5 million barrels of crude oil that India consumes daily, about 1.5 and 2 million only come through the Straits of Hormuz. We import roughly 4 million barrels through other routes. And our companies, the oil marketing companies, have enough stocks. Most of them have stocks up to 3 weeks. One of them has, in fact, 25 days stocks.
Meanwhile, the International Monetary Fund has warned of the potential downward impact that the US attack on Iran could have on global growth prospects, which the institution plans to update in July. The IMF also said that oil prices could rise if Iran goes ahead with the threat to shut down the shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. As the situation remains volatile, oil prices touched a 5-month high before paring gains on Monday as oil and gas transit continued on tankers from West Asia. Brent crude futures were up 1.1% at $77.86 a barrel, whereas US West Texas Intermediate crude rose by 1.14% to $74.68. Markets too remained restrained, with the dollar getting a modest safe haven bid and no sign of a rush to bonds. According to media reports, Iran does not have the legal authority to stop shipping traffic through the key oil choke point. This needs to be achieved either by force or threat of force. Closing the Strait of Hormuz will also impact Iran economically, as it would prevent Tehran from exporting its petroleum products. With Dheeraj Das, Amit Mukherjee for DD India.
Still to come here on DD India News Hour. Former Bangladesh election chief Huda has been placed on remand over alleged poll rigging. Ukraine's President Zelensky meets King Charles of Britain. And a suicide attack on a church in Damascus kills 25. You're watching DD India News. I'm Mark Lynn. Now, the global aviation industry has suffered major disruptions as multiple flights were suspended or reduced in West Asia amid this ongoing conflict between Israel and Iran and the involvement of the United States. Let's look at the latest situation. British Airways cancelled flights between London's Heathrow Airport and Dubai and Doha on Sunday. Air France halted flights to Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates until Tuesday. Air France also extended the suspension of its Paris-Tel Aviv route until July 14. Germany's Lufthansa Group has also suspended flights to West Asia until June 30. The Lufthansa Group will not operate flights to Tel Aviv and Tehran until July 31. Greece's Aegean Airlines has stopped Tel Aviv flights until July 12. Its routes to Amman, Beirut and Erbil, they are suspended until June 28. Turkish airline Pegasus has cancelled flights to Iraq, Jordan and Lebanon until June 30 and to Iran until July 30. United Airlines has warned passengers that flights to and from Dubai scheduled until July 3 may be affected. Air Canada has temporarily suspended its daily non-stop service from Toronto to Dubai. Singapore Airlines has also cancelled 8 flights to Dubai, 2 per day from Sunday through Wednesday. Operation Sindhu continues to bring back Indian nationals as well as those of neighbouring Sri Lanka and Nepal from the conflict zone. A special evacuation flight operated by Iran's Mahan Airlines brought back over 290 evacuees to Delhi on Monday evening, marking the 6th direct flight from Iran under India's Operation Sindhu. So far, a total of 9 flights have carried Indian nationals and others to safety amidst the ongoing conflict in the region. Among the evacuees was Fatima, a Sri Lankan citizen who expressed deep gratitude to the government of India for its humanitarian gesture.
As soon as I got to know the Indians are getting evacuated, I reached out to the Indian embassy to help me out too. And then they helped me out completely with the process, and I'm truly, truly grateful, and I'm so thankful.
The Consul of Sri Lanka, the High Commission in India, the Consul General, Narusha Hera, has expressed gratitude to the Indian government and to the Indian embassy in Tehran for evacuating Sri Lankan citizens. She said that India will help many more Sri Lankan students in evacuating from Iran as well as Israel.
We as Sri Lankans really grateful for the arrangement of Indian government. Actually, we thank you very much for the Ministry of Foreign External Affairs in India, especially the officials served in the IOR division as well as the Iran section. Also the protocol division. At the same time, I need to remember the people who came today. Now I got the information that they have arranged gratis visa as well to Miss Fatima, who arrived today. Thank you very much for all the arrangement. We really grateful for India.
Now, earlier late on Sunday night, 285 Indians returned home from Mashhad. India's Minister of State for External Affairs, Pabitra Margarita, welcomed the returnees who hailed the government's efforts. Tapas Bhattacharya reports.
Operation Sindhu continues to bring Indians home from conflict zones. 285 Indian nationals arrived safely in New Delhi from Mashhad on Mahan Air Flight W571, taking the total number of evacuees from Iran to 1,713. Minister of State for External Affairs, Pabitra Margarita, was present at the airport to receive the returnees. Overwhelmed with emotion, the returnees chanted Hindustan Zindabad and lauded the Indian government's swift and decisive efforts.
With the help of the Indian Embassy, we are successfully, we've managed to come here. Thank you to the Indian government. Thank you to all of the officials in Iran who helped us out through the entire journey.
It was tremendous job was done by the Embassy of India in Tehran, especially not only the ambassador, including the whole staff 24 hours, they were at the back of us, they were helping us in all respect of life. The situation was very tense, but with the support of the embassy, we are very confident and we have come back safely. Thank you for the Indian government, especially the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
We are very happy. There is the airspace is closed, Iran and Iraq, but only flights for Indians is flying from Mashhad to New Delhi. It's all because of Modi's diplomacy, and we really thank our Honorable Prime Minister and all the staff of the embassy in Iran for all their efforts, and we sincerely thank. Jai Bharat, Jai Hind.
Meanwhile, 162 Indians are also being brought back from Israel as tensions in the region rise amid the Iran-Israel conflict.
We are in constant contact with all our Indian nationals residing there in Iran and Israel also. So I'm very glad to say that from Israel also 162 Indian nationals have already crossed border to Amman of Jordan, and within a day or two those Indian nationals will also be brought safely to India.
Once again, India's diplomacy proves no matter where, no Indian will be left behind. Tapas Bhattacharya's report for DD India.
The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Monday met the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer as well as the King of Britain, King Charles. The Ukrainian President visited Downing Street to discuss UK's continued support for his war-torn country after being welcomed at Windsor Castle for a lunch with King Charles. Zelensky's visit, it takes place the day before the NATO leaders are set to meet in The Hague for a two-day summit. A Dhaka court on Monday placed the former Chief Election Commissioner, the CEC of Bangladesh, K.M. Nurul Huda, on a 4-day remand in a case over election manipulation. On Sunday evening, the police detained Nurul Huda from his residence in the capital's Uttara area, as per reports, and that was by the United News of Bangladesh, that report. The detention came just hours after the case was filed by the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, or the BNP, at the Shere Bangla Nagar police station on Sunday morning, causing 24 people, including the former chief election commissioners, and other officials involved in conducting the 10th, 11th and 12th national elections for irregularities and biased conduct. In some other international news now, at least 25 people have been killed in a suicide attack on a church in Damascus in Syria. It was the first suicide bombing in Damascus since Bashar al-Assad was toppled by an Islamist-led rebel insurgency in December. Syria's Interior Ministry said that the suicide bomber was a member of the Islamic State who entered the church, opened fire and then detonated his explosives west. Now, the security official claims that 2 men were involved in the attack, including the one who blew himself up. The Syrian leader, Ahmed al-Shahara, vowed Monday that those involved in this heinous suicide attack would face justice, and he called for unity in the diverse, multi-faith country. The Islamic State had previously targeted religious minorities, including a major attack on Shiite pilgrims at the Sayyida Zainab. This happened in 2016, one of the most notorious bombings during Assad's regime. Today marks 40 years since one of the deadliest aviation terror attacks in history, the bombing of the Air India Flight 182 Kanishka. The tragedy carried out by terrorists in 1985 claimed 329 innocent lives, most of them Canadians of Indian origin. Now, on this solemn day, a major tribute took place in Cork in Ireland, where the ill-fated flight went down, led by Union Minister Hardeep Singh Puri, as India steps up efforts to ensure justice even 4 decades later.
23rd June 1985. Air India Flight 182 en route from Montreal to Delhi via London exploded mid-air off the coast of Ireland after a bomb was planted by Khalistani terrorists. It was not just an attack on a plane, it was an assault on humanity. Today, India's Union Minister Hardeep Singh Puri, along with Irish Prime Minister Michael Martin and Canada's Minister of Diversity and Inclusion Kamal Khera Anand Sangri paid floral tributes to the victims.
The destruction of Air India Flight 182 Emperor Kanishka by an act of terrorism is a stain on humanity. As a representative of the Government of India, I once again extend my heartfelt condolences to the bereaved families and the people of the countries from which the passengers were drawn, Canada, India and Britain.
India, under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has intensified diplomatic and intelligence efforts against pro-Khalistan elements, particularly those operating from Canada, the UK and many other Western countries. Recently, India has handed over a detailed dossier to partner countries and sought stronger cooperation on the extradition and prosecution of those involved in separatist and extremist activities.
I lost my entire family in the Air India Kanishka bombing 40 years ago. For me, it's very significant that the Prime Minister has sent a delegation of senior cabinet ministers led by Shri Hardeep Singh Puri ji and MPs and MLAs.
The terror attack by the so-called Khalistani groups not only killed 329 innocent people on board of the plane, but also devastated thousands of families. Today, while the family members of the victims of the ill-fated Kanishka 182 remember their loved ones, they also thank the Indian government for keeping the fight up against terrorism of all forms.
I can only see in the last few years significant steps have been taken vis-a-vis our friendly neighbors, our other countries, to stop the scourge of Khalistani terrorism. In that sense, I think this government has taken some very positive steps.
While the wounds of Kanishka may never fully heal, today's ceremony in Cork marked a turning point, one of renewed resolve, not in just remembrance, but also in justice. A tragic chapter in history and yet a reminder that justice delayed must not be justice denied. On this 40th anniversary, the Indian government has sent a strong message. Terror has no place in a civilized world, and those who lost their lives on Kanishka 182 will never be forgotten, and the menace of terrorism will be uprooted forever. From Delhi, Akshay Dongre for DD India.
Let's take a look at other stories making news from around the world. Greece is rushing in reinforcements as wildfires rage across the island of Chios for a second straight day. More than 170 firefighters will be deployed Monday to join crews already on the ground. Fierce winds are fanning the flames, triggering power outages and forcing hundreds to evacuate. The blaze has scorched forest and pasture land and is now threatening areas north, west and south of Chios town. A couple of dozen climate activists from Extinction Rebellion were arrested in the Netherlands as they attempted to block a road leading to The Hague ahead of the NATO summit starting Tuesday, when police stopped the protest on the A44 highway. The demonstrators shifted to a nearby field near Abeniz, but authorities quickly moved in and detained them. Singer Tyler and actor Jack Black were among the big winners at the Kids' Choice Awards, which is a show famous not just for celebrating stars from film, TV, music and social media, but also for dousing them in slime. The fan-voted awards. They're powered by Nickelodeon. As well as viewers, they continue to be a favorite among young audiences. Still to come here on DD India News Hour. We'll get you expert opinion on the fallout of the US strikes in Iran and also calls for regime change and what's happening there.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Hello.
Johar.
Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout हो गया.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Here's a recap of our main news. Putin meets Iran's foreign minister as IAEA demands access to nuclear sites. Israel strikes Evin prison. Speculations on Hormuz closure. NATO chief Rutte says US strikes on Iran do not violate international law. Operation Sindhu, mass evacuation underway. Over 1,700 Indians brought home from Iran, more arriving from Israel. 40 years on, the sky still weeps as the world remembers the 329 lives lost in the Kanishka plane terror bombing. Heavy monsoon showers continue to lash several parts of India. From New Delhi to the northeast, rainfall is bringing both relief as well as disruption. The India Meteorological Department, it has issued multiple alerts for the coming days, warning people about heavy rainfall, thunderstorms, winds across various regions. Yash Chaturvedi reports.
India's national capital region witnessed light to moderate rainfall on Monday, keeping skies overcast with humid conditions. The India Meteorological Department has issued a yellow alert, warning of thunderstorms and gusty winds. Maximum temperature is expected to hover between 35 and 37 degrees Celsius, slightly below normal. Showers are expected to continue on Tuesday and Wednesday, as monsoon is likely to hit the capital within the next 2 days. In the northeast, Guwahati and other regions in the state of Assam are set for a wet spell till 29th of June. The IMD has issued an orange alert for Assam, Meghalaya and Arunachal Pradesh, predicting heavy rainfall. According to the Met Department, the entire northeast India will continue to experience light to moderate rain over the next 7 days. In Gujarat, the Ranjit Sagar Dam in Jamnagar has overflowed following consistent rainfall in the region. Schools in Surat are shut due to heavy rains that caused waterlogging across several areas. Meanwhile, traders have suffered losses worth crores after rainwater entered the textile market complex in Surat on Monday. Civic authorities are working to drain flooded localities and restore normalcy. Rainfall in Udhampur and other regions of India's Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir has rekindled hope for paddy farmers. Meanwhile, the IMD has forecast heavy rainfall at isolated places across Jammu and Kashmir, Ladakh and Himachal Pradesh till 27th of June. East Rajasthan is also on alert with predictions of heavy rainfall. Punjab, Haryana and Chandigarh are set to receive rain till the 26th of June, bringing down the heat but prompting warnings for sudden weather shifts. People are advised to stay alert and monitor updates from local authorities. As monsoon patterns intensify across the country, people are urged to exercise caution. While rain brings relief, it also poses challenges from traffic snarls to flooding. Yash Chaturvedi for DD India.
Well, let's introduce our guest on News Hour tonight. We're going to be talking about Iran and Israel. Ambassador Sanjay Panda, former senior diplomat, is with us. Thank you, Ambassador, for being with us. Now, what do you make of Abbas Araghchi's meeting with Vladimir Putin What's the geopolitical calculus? What message or what signal does it send out?
You see, after America getting into the attack and attacking the nuclear facilities, Iran has not got the kind of response and support from many countries which it was expecting. So its first step was to address that press conference in Istanbul yesterday, and then its meeting with Putin. But let me tell you that Russia will be a little reluctant to get into this situation now, because this would further escalate, and Russia has its own internal compulsions, already embroiled in the Ukraine war and already burnt its fingers, and this economy is in a pretty bad shape. So obviously Iran expects this support from Russia, and Russia at best will be able to give what quote unquote moral and diplomatic support at this stage.
Ambassador Panda, what can we expect from Iran potentially actually ending cooperation with the IAEA and getting out of the NPT?
This is a very difficult situation. You see, now the three sides, Natanz, Isfahan, and more importantly, Fordo, the IAEA, these are under IAEA inspections. There were inventories of what they had there. Now, after President Trump has announced the splendid attack and the fact that this has been decimated, and we really didn't know what has been decimated and what remains. So now Iran can clandestinely go ahead and do whatever it wanted to do and say that, look, everything was decimated, so I am at point zero. And IAEA inventory and inspection has no meaning now. Even if Iran comes to the table now for negotiations, but still on the nuclear issue, it's actually a big loss, I would say, for IAEA, whatever it had done. So I take this, whether this was the right move to attack the nuclear facilities with American intervention. I mean, this is only, we'll have to wait for the future, and posterity will hold us.
True. Ambassador Panda, also, what are the risks, of escalation after the Israeli attacks on Tehran's Evin prison? And also, do you see, some sort of impact on the internal stability within Iran as a result?
Yeah, that is what, you see, initially when every war, every conflict situation has two aspects. I mean, there is something that you were threatened externally, which is the external aspects, or there is something which is, a threat scenario which you are trying to counter. And the second thing, if you have some domestic compulsion, internal issues which we want to divert attention. In this case, very clearly, Israel was reacting to Iranian statements and that, okay, would like to annihilate the entire Jewish state. So, this was, Israel was coming to the saying that, okay, Iran is on the verge of making a nuclear bomb. But the very fact that it could not, take it on, and that is why probably US got into the fray. But the way I look at it, this has already marked a major escalation. You see, you have to understand, Iran is a country which has got which is a big history. It's a civilization, Persian civilization. It's not a banana state that, you trifle with. You have to give it its due importance. And, so Iran, when it says, when it said, okay, you have its response today to US that you have started the game, but we will end it. Mark my word, Iran, at least for the domestic audience and for the people, will have some kind of attack on US assets in the neighborhood, in the Middle East and Gulf. And so far as the internal strife is concerned, I mean, that is what initially Trump said that, okay, we are not looking at regime change. But today he has again said that, okay, this is a possibility. Now, there are it's easier said than done. But in case there is an internal, there's a lot of the younger lot. They do not want a nuclear Iran. I mean, they just want a proper
Peaceful.
developed Iran where they have opportunity. But having said that, inflicting a regime change from outside is not quite the norm that we
Fair
should
enough.
be having.
Indeed, Ambassador Panda, also, can Iran actually close the Strait of Hormuz that it's threatening to do when actually much of its earnings come from it? It exports oil also to China from there. So, I mean, it's like shooting itself in the foot, isn't it?
Mark, you're spot on there. But then, Strait of Hormuz, if Iran says that it is going to block it, it's considering. And if it does that, that will be suicidal for Iran.
Yeah.
But having said that, any state, when push comes to a shove, then you can go any length to prove a point. So Iran might just do that. But then there are forces which will ensure that Iran doesn't take the state of blockading the Strait of Hormuz, especially China. The amount of oil and crude that moves to China via the Strait of Hormuz is something that Iran cannot afford to, rub China on the wrong side at this point in time. So I think, only the next few days will have some clarity on this. But if Strait of Hormuz blockade really happens, we'll get into the 1970s scenario of the oil crisis.
Okay.
So it's difficult, but may not happen.
Also, should Iranians be prepared for some significant radiation increase or radiation leaks? What happens if that's the case? Because at that point of time, who takes the blame? After all, it was the Americans that blasted the sites. And it's up to Iran, who's saying that there is no radiation increase. But if there is, then what's happening?
There have been seismic measures have happened. You see, in Fordo, if you really are close to making a bomb, then when you have this bunker busters, from B2, the missile, it is G257, I think.
Right.
Yeah, 57, which goes 200 feet below the ground level, and then it explodes there. Now, then it will really decimate everything. So if Iran was close to it, there would have been radiation already. But then, there's been no radiation that has been measured as of now. And let me tell you that the other two facilities, like Nans and Isfahan, they were attacked by the Tomahawk missiles from the, probably from the submarines in the Northern Arabian Sea. So actually the monitors suggest that there have been no radiation so far, although there was seismic activity which was noted. But if that happens, who do you pass the blame on?
Indeed.
Would the Americans take the blame? So I think, some decisions have to be a little measured and taken and not impromptu. So anyway, that is another issue.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Ambassador Sanjay Panda. Thank you for throwing light on the situation in Iran. And those dreaded bombs that Ambassador was talking about were the GBU-57 bunker busters, which were dropped by the B-2 bombers. Now let's take a look at some other stories making the news. As part of the 26th Kargil Day Vijay Divas, an expedition to Sonam Post and a battle narration, Veer Gata, they were held at Hanu Valley in Leh. Colonel Sonam Wangchuk, Mahavir Chakra, retired, along with the Ladakh Scouts veterans. They shared stirring accounts from the Battle of Sonam Post in the Chorbatla complex, harboring the courage and sacrifice of, in fact, it was honoring the courage and sacrifice of the Kargil heroes and inspiring future generations. Tripura has been declared a fully literate state, becoming the third in the country to achieve this milestone after Goa and Mizoram. Chief Minister Manik Saha has made this announcement, calling it a historic moment for the state. The declaration is based on data from the Understanding Lifelong Learning for All in Society initiative. Tripura now boasts a literacy rate of 95.6%. National Investigation Agency has arrested 2 men for harboring terrorists who carried out the Pahalgam attack that killed 26 innocent tourists. The 2 men, Parvez Ahmed Jotar and Bashir Ahmed Jotar, they disclosed the identities of the 3 armed terrorists involved in the attack and have also confirmed that they were Pakistani nationals affiliated to the Lashkar-e-Taiba. Still to come here on DD India News Hour, Zimbabwe's Kirsty Coventry officially takes charge as the president of the International Olympic Committee. Oklahoma City Thunder wins NBA Finals, beating Indiana Pacers in a deciding Game 7. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. As the state of emergency, which is considered to be a blot on India's democracy, it completes 50 years now. The Bharatiya Janata Party, the BJP, which played a major role in opposing the act of the then Congress-led government, has been revisiting the dark days when its leaders, along with the eminent citizens of our country, were dumped in jails. One such story is of Snehalata Reddi. Now, she was a film star, an activist and a voice of resistance. But during the emergency in 1975, Snehalata Reddy's courage became her crime. Arrested, silenced and broken behind bars, her story is one of dignity crushed by dictatorship. Here's a haunting story of a woman who stood tall and paid the ultimate price for her dissent. Who is this woman? Many of us may find it hard to recognize her. She is Snehalata Reddi, a celebrated actress of South Indian cinema from a bygone era. But that is only part of her identity. In 1975, then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi declared a state of emergency. Snehalata Reddi took to the streets in protest against the authoritarian regime. She participated in peaceful demonstrations. What made her an even bigger target for the government was a close association with the socialist leader George Fernandez. At the time, George Fernandez had gone underground, and authorities suspected that Snehalata knew his whereabouts. What followed was a tragedy that remains a chilling reminder of those dark times. On May 2, 1976, Snehalata Reddi was arrested under the draconian Maintenance of Internal Security Act, MISA, a law used extensively during the emergency to silence political dissent. She was confined to a small cell in Bengaluru jail, barely fit for human habitation. Veteran journalist Kuldeep Nair recounted her condition in his book Emergency Retold. In the prison cell, there was only a hole in the corner for a toilet and a barred iron door at the other end. This renowned Kannada actress was forced to sleep on the floor. For 8 long months, Snehalata Reddi endured constant torture. While in prison, Snehalata kept a diary, which was later published in 1977 by the Karnataka Human Rights Committee under the title A Prison Diary. In it, she described the inhumane treatment she endured.
As soon as a woman enters, she is stripped naked in front of everyone. When someone is sentenced, punishment follows. But does a human body deserve to be humiliated like this? Who is responsible for these dehumanizing methods?
During the emergency, many opposition leaders were jailed. Among them were Atal Bihari Vajpayee and Lal Krishna Advani, who were also imprisoned in Bengaluru jail. Snehalata Reddy's dark, isolated cell was right next to theirs. Both Vajpayee and Advani later recalled hearing the haunting cries of a woman from a nearby cell. It was only later they discovered that the screams came from the actress Snehalata Reddi. Despite her deteriorating health, Snehalata suffered from asthma. She was denied medical treatment and subjected to even harsher conditions. After 8 months in custody, the government finally released her on parole on January 15, 1977. But just 5 days later, Snehalata Reddi died of a heart attack. The charge against her: she was accused of plotting to detonate dynamite at Parliament and other key buildings in Delhi, an allegation that was never proven in court. Falsely accused, tortured, and ultimately pushed to her death, Snehalata Reddi became one of many silenced voices of the emergency. Bureau Report, DD India. You're watching DD India News Hour. Let's get you the sports news now. And Zimbabwe's Kirsty Coventry has officially taken charge as the president of the International Olympic Committee on Monday. The outgoing president, Thomas Bach, handed over the keys of the Olympic House to the former Olympic swimming champion in a handover ceremony. Coventry was elected as the 10th president of the IOC and the first female president in IOC history, following voting at the 144th IOC session, which took place in Costa Navarino, which was in Greece. Now, in March this year, that happened. Kirsty Coventry is, in fact, a former Olympic swimming champion, as we said. She's from Zimbabwe and Africa's most decorated Olympian. The Oklahoma City Thunder capped an extraordinary season. They defeated the Indiana Pacers in the NBA Finals on Sunday and won the franchise's first title since relocating from Seattle in 2008. This success, led by the Thunder's MVP Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, along with Jalen Williams, as they beat the Pacers 103-91 in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. This, in fact, marked the franchise's second championship trophy and the first since it rebranded from the Supersonics to the Thunder as they moved to Oklahoma City back in 2008. The world of sports is celebrating World Olympic Day today. It's June 23. It marks the birth of the modern Olympic Games. It's celebrated to promote the Olympic values of excellence, friendship, and respect. Now, Olympic Day also recognizes the importance of physical education. It highlights how sports can bridge divides and foster international unity.
The International Olympic Day is celebrated every year on 23rd of June to commemorate the founding of the International Olympic Committee in Paris in 1894. The idea of Olympic Day was introduced in 1948 by the International Olympic Committee to commemorate the founding of the modern Olympic movement, which began on June 23, 1894 in Paris. On this day, French educator Pierre de Coubertin established the IOC, laying the foundation for the revival of the ancient Olympic Games. On this day, people of all ages and abilities are encouraged to participate in physical activities and embrace the Olympic ideals of excellence, friendship, and respect. Each year, the IOC or National Olympic Committees promote a theme to focus the celebrations. In 2025, the theme is Let's Move, which shines a light on the benefits of playing sport and working out together, celebrating the motivation, community, and joy that movement with others brings. As part of the celebration, India also organized the Olympic Day Run under IOC's Let's Move campaign, promoting fitness and inclusivity. The event saw enthusiastic participation citywide in the presence of the Sports Minister, Dr. Mansukh Mandavia, President of the Indian Olympic Association, PT Usha, and Delhi Chief Minister, Rekha Gupta.
Today we celebrate the Olympic movement everywhere in our country, not only to celebrate the modern Olympic movement, but for the excellence, unity and perseverance.
आज दिल्ली में जो ओलंपिक डे सेलिब्रेशन हुआ और ओलंपिक रन हुआ, मैं बहुत ही खुश हूं कि दिल्ली के हजारों लोगों ने इसमें पार्टिसिपेट किया और आदरणीय मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में लगातार देश बेहतर खिलाड़ी बेहतर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर और बेहतर फैसिलिटीज की ओर बढ़ रहा है और पूरी तरीके से दिल्ली देश ओलंपिक 2036 की मेजबानी के लिए तैयार है.
The history of the Olympics spans over 2800 years, beginning with the ancient games of Greece and evolving into today's global festivals of sport. Throughout this timeline, the Olympic Games have consistently promoted peace and cooperation. For example, at each Games, athletes from over 200 nations gather under one flag of 5 rings in the Olympic Village. Over time, the Olympics have also expanded in scope. The modern Olympic movement now includes the Winter Games, the Paralympic Games, the Youth Olympic Games and various regional competitions. However, all of these share the same roots in Olympic history, the idea that sport can transcend national and cultural differences. World Olympic Day reminds us that sport is not just about winning. It is about participation, determination and bringing people together. It observes the timeless message of the Olympics, a celebration of human potential and harmony through athletic excellence. Sports Desk, DD India.
Well, that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, get the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen and download it now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Mark Lin. From all of us here in Delhi, thank you very much for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.